Welcome to the Real Estate Show. From buying to selling and everything in between. Rochester's home for everything real estate. And now, your hosts from the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. It's Anthony Butera and Jason Mancuso.
Hey guys, welcome to the Real Estate Podcast. We are on episode 49, almost the 50th anniversary. It's 50 years.
50 years of doing the podcast.
Blowout special next week.
Yep.
This is do you want? So we're gonna do question and answer, right?
Q&A.
Yeah, we got a bunch of questions that'll be kind of relevant to what's going on out there in the marketplace, thankfully. So, I mean, it's a good time to address a lot of these because it's crazy out there.
Already nuts. You wouldn't think in this weather, but not the case.
I mean, it can be, you can look at it from a good or a bad angle, I guess. Certainly still a seller's market. Talked about that multiple times throughout the last year or so. So if you're a seller, you hold the cards. You've got the leverage. Generally speaking, things should go pretty well for you. Still very important to, not try to take advantage of that and price, out of the atmosphere.
Yep.
But, the reality is, simply put, you have more buyers out there than there are homes for sale. So your home is going to have less competition compared to, if there were 10 other similar homes and 10 buyers looking for the same home. Mm-hmm. So we're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
Are you sick of this seller's market thing? Or?
No, it's just it's different, man. To be honest with you, this week I've had to kill a couple of deals that were contingent, and it's like no matter what you do or how diplomatic you try to be, it's brutal. And you feel for parties on every end. It's not an easy market for the consumers to navigate, especially on the buying end of things. Because, let's just face it. Most people, they can't go, if they currently own a home, they can't go non-contingent, yet they don't want to buy something. They don't want to put their house in the market until they find something, because what if we never find something, right? There's always that fear. Yeah. And it's navigating those conversations and building enough trust for them to allow you to educate them on why we should be doing things this way, and I'm looking out for you. Mm-hmm. It's a different environment. When I got in the business, it was an extreme buyer's market. Now it's definitely a seller's market. So
it's not that we're sick of it. What it is. Working with the buyers is definitely going to be a lot more frustrating, a lot more of a process to go through than working with a seller. Mm-hmm. If you're a buyer out there, don't blame your agent. Don't get frustrated with the process if you lose out on an offer or multiple offers. The reality of the market is that it may take a good handful or more of offers submitted until you get one that's accepted.
Well, we're doing Q&A. Do you want? That's kind of the first question that somebody came in. Want to start off with that?
Yeah.
Fire away.
About somebody living with their parents and have lost multiple offers.
How old are they? Doesn't say.
I'm assuming mid-30s, around there. Living with their parents, lost multiple offers, just like any tips on what to do moving, going forward,
So, all right. If you're losing offers, it could be a couple reasons. You could just be too low of a number. And, that's the easiest one to point to, right? Is that, if you have competition and the competition out there is just throwing a huge number at something to get it to stick so that they win, then it's tough for a seller to really, turn that down. But if you're losing offers because you're not, I hate to just shoot right to being properly represented, but more so, not fine-tuning all the other terms of the offer aside from the number, then that's where it's like, well, shame on you and your representation. Because there's ways to go about this to where you don't necessarily just have to overpay for something in order to win. So if you're making a competitive offer but still losing, and God forbid for your own self-esteem, you find out that well, I lost out, but if you find out after the fact when that property closes and they close for the same amount that you offered, that just means that your offer was weak in other regards.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like you really have to have that expertise with you that has the pulse on the market to know, because there's new like tricks of the trade that are popping up literally weekly that can strengthen an offer to push it through and get you to win. Now, that's one point, but I think the bigger conversation to have here is what's the situation, right? Is there a necessity to buy? And
If they're living in their parents' basement.
to me,
I'd say so.
What are the parents like?
Yeah,
Do they want you out that
Right.
bad?
I mean, what we're cognizant of as a team is this market overall compared to historically speaking trends. And, over the last few years, we've had a very large increase in pricing across the board. That locally here in Rochester, we've really, I don't want to say we've never seen before, but
It's been a long time.
it's been a long time. And we're talking 20% across the board increase in price that this Rochester market just doesn't see. It's
Yeah.
not like we're South Florida or California or some crazy appreciating market.
Yeah, we're like Jimmy Carter times. Like it was that. it was like that long ago.
Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, buddy, I'm
The
serious.
times where he'll come build you a house, right? Like,
Yes.
So it's being cognizant and not wanting to overpay and thinking down the line that if this is your first home and you're only going to be there for, say, 5 years, I don't want to, what if I get caught and the market shifts and, the market goes down or stays flat and I'm at the peak right now and then I have no equity and I'm breaking even when I sell or, losing money when I sell 5 years from now. Well, in this conversation, guy living in parents' basement, is it worth it to live in your parents' basement for the next 5 years compared to owning your own home? And, okay, if we can at least establish, nobody's got the crystal ball, right? So if we can speak in terms of, hopefully this is the worst-case scenario that you sell in 5 years, you're now married, you got a kid, you're moving on up, that, you just kind of break even.
Yeah.
Because the market's at its peak right now and things level off. Is that a scenario that would be worth it to you? It would be to me.
Well, so I'll stay super specific to this example, right? Number one, you're in your parents' basement.
Did he say he's in his parents' basement?
Why do you keep saying he?
Could be a she.
I don't know. I think
Girls not living in
Very,
parents' basement?
very European thing for the the lady stays there until she gets married off.
Yeah.
Dowry. She gets like a cow, and her parents get a cow and a chicken, and some land, and
Father unlocks the chastity.
yeah, right. Just it's 2019. That's how things happen.
That's what things happen.
European women.
Yeah.
Unless they're your cousin, of course. That's free game.
Right.
So this case specifically, right? So you're in your parents' basement. I know it may not sound glamorous, but you actually have an advantage because you truly are non-contingent, right? So
Right.
you don't own the home, your parents do. So you don't have any weight to get off, meaning you don't have to sell a house and try to coordinate a purchase going in contingent if you can't go non-contingent. So with that being said, you already have an advantage. Here's where consumers are going to you're going to have to wrap your head around this, unfortunately. So we can talk about, we don't feel the house is worth more than this. And we don't feel comfortable putting an offer in for more than this because of this and because that one just sold 2 years ago and it's the same square footage, very similar. I get it. I'm with you. I can understand. There's fair market value, and I keep preaching this. There's fair market value, but if you're not in a fair market,
Right.
there's unfair values. And that's what we're dealing with. Essentially, it's an unfair market.
Yep.
But do you need to buy? Because if you need to buy, you need to buy.
Yeah.
What's the solution? So let's talk about what the solutions could be. Do you go and rent? Well, I don't know if you've seen what the rental market's done in the last 5 years. That's climbed even further than the single-family residential market.
Right.
Rents are insanity. So if you could get into a house, your mortgage, taxes, and homeowners insurance are combined into one escrow payment of $1,000 a month. I mean, for $1,000 a month, you're going to get a 2-bedroom apartment and get woken up with a domestic dispute, probably 6 days a week.
Hey, you could buy a house with crappy neighbors too, okay?
You can, but at least you're not sharing a wall.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Or they're not above you. You know what I mean? So if you're hearing somebody get hit, you'd rather it be muffled a little bit and at least a few feet between your house. So with that being said, here's the other piece, right? As renters or as you're sitting in your parents' basement, we can't forget we do have tax write-offs as homeowners. Right? When you're purchasing a home too. I mean, there's even more write-offs that initial year because you have a lot of closing costs going into that mortgage. So we can't, I'm not going to sit here and say the values are just going to continue to climb forever. And don't worry about it because by the time you're ready to sell whether it's 3 years or it's 10 years, the house is going to be worth way more and you'll make up for anything that you put into the house. And we're not going to say that yet. How many decisions do we make on a regular basis that necessarily don't make sense financially, but you do it out of necessity or you do it out of desire? If home ownership is something that you desire, this is the reality of it.
Right.
I mean, mortgages, they're unfair, right? Mm-hmm. You buy a $150,000 house, by the time you're done paying that mortgage off, you're going to be into it for a lot more than $150. No, I'm not going to, but you're going to be into it for a lot more than $150,000 with the interest that you're paying. But I mean, this is what we're dealing with. What are your other choices?
Yep. I mean, yeah, it's kind of what's the best alternative? You can stay with mom and dad.
Get an apartment, have no tax write-offs, have restrictions to what you're allowed to do, pay extra because you had to get a dog when you were 18, and now it's 12 years old, and it's shitting all over the place.
Personal example. Let's circle back, though. This conversation starts because we're trying to predict the future and saying that, okay, we've had this huge price increase. It's probably not sustainable over the long run. And at what point does just things level off? Or God forbid, I mean, things actually do decrease. What goes up must come down type of thing. If there is a crash, then okay, everybody's screwed, right? So aside from that, which I don't think is going to happen anyway. So just going back to okay,
it's going to happen. Rochester is very isolated.
We're pretty sheltered from it, which is good. I mean, we're not these crazy markets that just have insane gains that have to come down just to keep going as a market. So the example is you're paying $100,000 for something now. It was worth $80,000 2-3 years ago, and it's listed at 100 anyway, and you're in a bidding war. You're going up to 105, 110, and you're worried that you're not going to be able to sell it for 110 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. Again, do you want to keep living in your parents' basement for the next 5 years, or do you want to rent if you need to get out and have zero shot at any equity?
Yeah.
And like you touched on, I mean, the benefits of home ownership are still there, especially in these price points where, the tax write-off is still available, all that stuff. So take the plunge.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you're still putting money towards the principal of the home, right? You're paying it down. And I know at first you're not paying it down a lot because, the first 5 years of your mortgage payments, most of it's interest.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So with that being said, at least you're putting something towards a savings, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like it's a savings account, but then again,
still
it
an
is.
Asset.
Yeah, it's an asset. And once you pay a certain amount down, it's actually an asset that you can borrow against. So
right.
At the end of the day, your best bet is to own real estate. That is the one commodity that has withstood the test of time, is owning real estate, right? And I'm not going to just say it's a great investment, but we all have to sleep somewhere. You know what I mean?
Well, it's again necessity.
Yeah.
So where are you going to sleep?
Where are you going to sleep?
right?
Yeah.
I mean, boil it down to that, and I guess the point we're trying to drive home is like have this conversation be applicable to you're deciding on $3,000 or $5,000 more on a house.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not telling you to go out and just start winging offers for 150 when it's really only worth 100.
Yeah.
But if you're 105 on 100, do you want the thing or not?
Yeah.
Do you want to change your lifestyle or not?
So how much does if you got like a 30-year mortgage and you're adding like $5,000? How much is there like a rule of thumb of like how much that would add to your monthly payment?
$25 would well if you put an extra 5,000.
Yeah, like per thousand. Like how much is that adding?
$5.
to $5.
$5. That'll be the
It's
net
not
effect of the payment. So every
Payment wise, it's not much.
every $1,000 down.
Because I know a lot of people are looking at their month to month.
Sure.
Of how they're paying
Yeah,
for a home
of
rather
course.
than the
Yeah.
long term of.
That's
you know,
the small increments of increase really have minimal effect. When you get into bigger chunks, $25,000, $50,000 in the price, then that's different. But I mean, it all starts. You gotta have yourself in check anyway. If you're starting this process new, and I want to spend $1,000 a month, okay, get yourself with a banker, find out what that translates to based on the loan, based on down payment, all that stuff, so that you know not to look above a certain point.
But it's also one of those things where it's like if you can offer $10,000 more, it's $50 a month extra. Really going to kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And listen, if you live in fear, then you're probably gonna hold yourself back from making a lot of moves. Let's rewind, okay? Let's just say it's 1978, okay, and we're the same age.
Is
as
this
we
Jimmy
are now.
Carter time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Jimmy
It was-
Carter,
Yeah, it
man.
would be Jimmy Carter.
All right.
So we're in
Maybe.
78 now. You want to buy a house? 20% down.
18%.
And that's it.
interest.
18% interest rates, right? It was probably
Yeah,
that's doom and gloom.
Right.
Yet people were still buying and building houses because it was just
because you got to have a freaking place to sleep.
that's what it is, right?
Right.
So I mean, you purchase something, you think it's this price, then they roll the taxes into it, and it's like, oh God,
Well,
what are you gonna do? Not buy it?
Back to, I mean, we don't realize how good we have it historically speaking. And I mean, okay, everything's relevant and time is now, but
The
it's,
rates.
it's kind of an irrelevant conversation to put yourself in your parents' shoes when they bought their first home. But I mean, shit.
Yeah. So now let's jump in the DeLorean, right?
Yeah.
So it's 78.
This is
now
very dangerous.
it's 2000. It's 2019, and if I could have told someone then that the consumers would be living in fear about overpaying by $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, whatever the case may be, depending on price points. And we told them, and what if I told you the interest rates were in the 4s? They'd be like, huh?
Yeah. What?
Spend whatever. That's free money. 4%. You know what I mean? So like, and the rates actually the rates have been dropping.
No, yeah. I mean, the conversation we were having last year with it spiking and getting into 5, it's tethered back down. And
Yeah, it went back down to the 4s.
Mid 4s, even low 4s, depending. So
Yeah. So what's worse, right?
right.
Paying $5,000, $10,000 more, or would you prefer 18% interest rate?
Right.
Or would you prefer living in your parents'
Yeah.
basement?
Sleeping with the furnace rumbling next to your head.
Right.
And if you're living in your parents' basement, they have some radon testing and mold testing
Also,
ton. If you're peeing in the sump crack
yeah.
and you're flush,
You're
Yeah.
you don't need to flush it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're comfortable with the basement, you can still buy a house and just sleep in the basement.
Yeah.
You know.
if you're bringing your 45-year-old girlfriend home to your parents' basement and there's no egress,
I guess it depends.
It's time to move.
I guess this all depends on the basement, though.
Yeah, some are really nice.
Yeah.
The drywall up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Bathroom down there, side
think-
from the sump.
We got time for another question. How about we do this one? Somebody wants to know, like, how much it really costs to sell their home. So, like, if there's any hidden type of stuff that people generally don't think about, not necessarily hidden, but people don't think about.
Well,
you
the
know?
tons.
The beauty is there really isn't any hidden costs.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we walk each seller through, whether it's when we're meeting with them first and interview or really getting deep into the process, is we can provide you with, we call it a seller net sheet. Basically calculates everything that you're going to come across. Simply put, sell your house for $100,000. typically 6% real estate commission to cover both sides of the transaction. So now you're down to 94. Then you have to have in New York State an attorney handle the closing. Attorney fee $400 to $500. Think about that as an aside. These attorneys out there, they're attorneys and they make $400 to $500 on each transaction. Mm-hmm. Then you have to pay for title work and an abstract. Call it another $400 to $500.
Attorneys will handle that.
Yep,
in many cases, they will actually own the title company to make more because they're not getting rich off of a real estate transaction.
Yeah, these guys do volume, so this is all like the set of what the attorney does. So the fee for the attorney, the abstract title work, survey. They'll handle the survey being done on the property anywhere from more $300 to $400 range. Welcome to New York State. As a seller, you pay $4 per $1,000 of the sale price. So $100,000 is $400.
That's Monroe County tax deed.
Right.
Stamps.
Yep. Which I don't even know what it means, but it's just $4 per
It's
$1,000.
another county.
Yeah.
That's another county charge. I mean,
So Denalfo can get like her hair.
a crown of Aquanet.
A perm tax.
Can't wait till those birds fly out.
You may have another $30, $50 here and there, just another general like recording fees, stuff like that. That's about it. Mm-hmm. So then you have to pay off your mortgage, pay off any liens, any other past due balances. Where it gets a little tricky to estimate, like on the spot, is because of time of year. Typically, most people's taxes are escrowed, so it depends on the escrow balance that the bank has, where that sits. And then
so if you have like $600 left in taxes, you have to pay that off.
Yeah, so basically it has to be net zero at the closing day. So if you owe taxes, they have to be paid. If you've paid ahead, then you'll get a credit for however long you've paid ahead.
In most cases, you're receiving a credit for prepaids because remember, when you establish an escrow account, you're not putting 20% down. You have no choice. You have to roll the taxes into your payment. So if you're paying a year ahead, depending what time of year that is, you've prepaid taxes. That gets figured out with the final HUD-1 settlement statement and the payoff with your bank, and they figure out, okay, there's an overage in the escrow account of $2,200. That goes towards it as well.
Right.
So,
how about flip it, buyer? Is there anything people are missing?
Buyers,
like what like extra little charges or something that people don't think about?
Well, it depends on cash versus getting a mortgage, and the getting a mortgage conversation, which is most common. Well, first to touch, if you're a cash buyer, then you just have whatever your attorney's charging to get it closed. So probably another $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 max, I would say.
Yeah.
Right. The mortgage, I don't even want to comment on because it depends on the bank.
Yeah.
Bank's got to make their money, so that's where you really got to look and make sure you're with the right lender that isn't marking things up. And
with that being said, with all the predatory lending that's been going on in years prior, there now is truth in lending, so they have to disclose. There's a disclosure form, and it literally breaks down every single penny of where your closing costs are coming from because the consumer's saying, well, wait a second. We're putting 3.5% down, right? We just bought a house for $100,000, so $3,500. What else do we have to pay for? Well, there's a cost to borrowing money, of course, right? There's bank financing fees. There are
taxes. You got to pay your taxes on the buy side.
Prepaid,
so that can
a year's
be
worth of taxes.
That can be a big chunk depending on where you're at. So
yeah.
I mean that example of $100,000, 3.5% down, $10,000
$10,000, 10 to 12,
yeah.
depending on what the taxes are in that town.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of that will go to taxes. You're probably getting $4,000 on there, and then the bank fees and attorney fees.
And outside of that, home inspection. I mean, that's pretty much it. So your home inspection, and then your bank fees and closing costs, taxes rolled into that. Right. So
back to that seller example, real quick. You sell for $100. So after 6% commission, down to 94. Call it $2,000. So down to 92. That's it. outside of the taxes. So maybe if you may get that $2,000 on the attorney side may be a wash. So now you're back to 94 because it's credited back to you, and then you pay off your mortgage. Say it's got a balance of $80,000, and you're going to have proceeds of $14,000 in that example.
Okay. And
There's really to answer the question. There's really you're not going to show up if you're with the right people anyway. You're not going to show up at the closing table or get at the closing process and where the hell did this $5,000 fee come from? Doesn't work like that. So that's the good news. You could be pretty calculated, and it's important because when you're reviewing, if things are tight, say you have a $90,000 balance in that example, and things are pretty tight, so you need to know, okay, I really can't accept an offer below $96,000 in that example in order to break even.
To get you out of the house.
right,
without
pay
cutting
off
a check.
anything. Yeah.
So, it's important to be able to walk through that example ahead of time so you know how to price in order to, keep yourself afloat, and you know what to accept when offers being presented so you aren't cutting the check and hopefully you're getting a check.
Yep.
I mean, and I guess other things too would be, well, I mean, if there's if the buyer wants you to fix something or after an inspection, right? I mean,
Correct.
I mean, that's all
Part of the negotiation.
do you ever tell anybody? I mean, do you suggest to people to have kind of a rainy day fund for that type of stuff when selling a home, or be prepared for that kind of stuff?
It's every home specific, right? So let's just say the roof's good, but you know that in 5 years that's going to have to be taken care of. We have those conversations with the buyers that we're representing, right? So you guys, beautiful house, structurally sound, everything's good, but just heads up, over the next 5 years, you guys may want to be putting some money aside for that roof. Or pray for another storm, and in your case, just get your whole house remodeled because there was a tornado that just hit your house for some reason.
That's what it was.
It's still under investigation.
Circle back to the market conditions. I mean, as a seller, that type of conversation matters. Not that it doesn't matter, but it matters less just because you should have the leverage to, if you have an unreasonable buyer and they want you to fix this, this, and this, go take a hike. I got another guy in line.
Correct. We're not in the market to start making demands for stuff outside of safety issues, right? Foundation's crumbling. That needs to be addressed.
The market were to shift and you're trying to sell your home and it needs work.
Yeah. Be prepared.
That's where it's like, okay, you're either going to sell it accordingly for that price to account for it, or it might make sense to invest to try to get max dollar if that's the objective.
And a lot of sellers will want us, when we're taking listings on, they'll be like, well, just make sure it's known. Put in the remarks that the home is for sale as is. They just by putting that in there, the consumer and the agents, all you're basically alluding to is that there's something majorly wrong with this house.
Right.
So don't scare people away. There's no perfect home. It's what can the consumer live with? If after closing they don't have $500 to their name, yes, this is going to be a concern for you, right? You know what I mean? So
the as-is conversation always cracks me up a little bit just because people have such a misinterpretation of it. Very few people actually realize every contract boilerplate built in is an as-is clause.
Yeah.
What that means is the day of closing, after that, as a seller, you're no longer on the hook as long as you weren't fraudulent.
Yeah.
And not disclose something that wasn't working or faulty. And as a buyer, you close and the furnace breaks the next day, it's on you.
welcome
As
to
is.
home ownership.
I think my favorite one is Handyman's Dream.
Yeah, handyman special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically
I just love this. This is great.
that's the
worked.
clever way of saying as is, and this property is shot.
The joy I get tearing asbestos out with my son.
Yeah, fun. Look at this pea-soaked carpet.
As is.
Handy man's dream.
All right, so next episode is our 50th episode.
Yes.
I don't know what that means. I'll bring cake.
We've got things
You got
planned.
some- oh, no.
Can we get cake?
Yeah, we'll get some cake.
Cake.
we do these in the morning, so that'll be fun.
Yep. We will be throwing little people on Velcro dartboards.
all of that good stuff.
It's a little people.
Yeah.
And you can find us at AnthonyButerra.team.com. Got the Real Estate Show tab there, and iTunes and Stitcher. Subscribe there. And we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Show. Find us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. If you're looking to sell or buy, talk to the Anthony Buterra team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. Visit AnthonyButerraTeam.com.